You decide when you want to do record as well.
It is auto recording. Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to our webinar. Good to see you this morning and this afternoon. It looks like we have quite a few people here, but we're going to give everyone just a minute to hop on. Welcome, welcome. We'll do some introductions here in just a minute. Thanks for joining us. All right, we're just going to give people a minute. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Thursday. We're going to have a lot of fun today, so don't you worry. All right, Ben, can you see the attendee list? I think when I'm sharing,
Yes,
I can't.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
All right. You let me know when we are ready to dive in.
Okay, let's give it another minute if we could.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
What do you think? You ready?
Can you hide that little thing in the middle of the screen? That little.
How's that?
See that? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Shall we? Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's get this show on the road and get this kicked off. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, NarrativeWave and Longroad joint webinar. My name is Shelly Buckland. I'm the Director of Client Success. I'm going to introduce everyone on the team here in just a second, but I am going to be your pilot today, taking you through the before and after. Really what we're going to talk about today, we're going to hear a lot from Longroad and where they were before NarrativeWave and Advanced Analytics and where they are today. So kick back, enjoy the in-flight entertainment, if you will. Pay attention, there'll be a quiz at the end. Just kidding, there's not, but I bet I have your attention now. So here we go.
Fantastic.
All right, so here's the team. As I mentioned, my name is Shelly Buckland. I will have my email address at the end, so you guys can reach out if you have some additional questions, information. If you just want a demo, do a one-on-one, I'll show my email here at the end. Please know there's a question feature on the bottom right of your screen. Please feel free to pop questions in as we go. We're going to try to hold questions to the end, but definitely feel free to pop those in as we go so you don't forget the questions that you have. Here is our team today. So on the NarrativeWave end, we have Ben Decio right in the middle. He is our CEO. Of course, myself next to him, and then Dr. George Garforth. He is our Senior Director of Client and Data Engineering, which really means he is our boss and runs the show. Nah, just kidding, but kind of not. On the Longroad side, we have Jeremy Law, our VP of Commercial Asset Management, and Robert Ferris, the Director of Engineering. Really amazing team at Longroad. They have a much wider team that we work with. They're all amazing. Jeremy and Robert are kindly going to walk us through their story today, and we're excited to talk to them.
And just to add, we also have, as you know, Shelly, we got Diego Cerda, who is our Director of Data Analytics. It's also sitting in to support as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's go over the agendas. We have a jam-packed agenda today, so we will be as timely as possible. We're going to start with an overview of the companies to really set the stage to learn more about who we are, to put everything into context. So we'll do an overview of NarrativeWave, an overview of Longroad. We're going to have a discussion with Longroad to talk about their original problem and the partnership that we have had together. We're going to do a demo of the actual Longroad environment, and then we will open up for Q&A at the end. All right, so let's learn first about NarrativeWave. Ben, take it away.
Great. First of all, thank you everyone that's joined us. We got folks that are participating, I believe, from 4 continents and about 10, 12 countries. So thank you. Do a quick overview on NarrativeWave for those of you that are not too familiar with the company. Very simply, what NarrativeWave is in essence a self-service software as a service solution set. So basically what that means is self-service and the capability of clients can build on their own, but more importantly, from a self-service standpoint, they have complete control and access to every aspect of NarrativeWave. We'll get into the details of that in a few minutes. And today our clients span 7 energy verticals, of which today we're going to highlight clearly our client and partner Longroad Energy with their wind, solar, and BESS portfolio. but today we work in 7 different energy verticals and then industrial verticals that include manufacturing, heavy equipment, and others. Frankly, over time, our client base will continue to expand into other industrial areas due to the efficacy and the product flexibility. And so the last thing I would say about this very simply is our whole approach is the product flexibility, but then really leveraging, like we'll talk about with Longroad, in essence, the flexibility that allows the subject matter experts, folks like Robert and his team, to be able to leverage NarrativeWave in a way that impacts their operations. How does NarrativeWave work? So connect, detect, and operationalize. Very simply, connecting means we have pre-built connectors and pipelines that allow our clients to very quickly leverage their data. Detect, in essence, means detecting issues and or getting up and running in a matter of hours. And then obviously easily built and deployed analytics. And then thirdly, and most important, on the operational side, this is in essence how our clients' SMEs plus the product are starting to get smarter and better over time based on that interaction between the product and the subject matter experts. And we'll get into that obviously a little bit further relative to the demo that we're going to provide. On the constituent side or personas, very simply, our solutions offer the ability of the entire chain from management all the way to site teams. So it's really about, from our vantage point, and we think from the client standpoint, curating outputs that are relevant to that user, whether it's someone in the field, whether it's the performance engineering teams, whether it's control centers, whether it's data science. It's not about sending more information. It's about sending relevant things that actually impact operations and clearly, ideally, automate some of those business processes. So at that stage, that's all I've got for now, Shelley. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Jeremy, let's hear a little bit about Longroad.
Great. Thanks, Shelley, and thanks for having us here. I don't know if you're the pilot, does that make us the flight attendants? Are we the flight crew? I'm not sure what we got going, but we'll do our best to give the information today. And we're flight entertainment. Oh, even better. All right. Okay, well, yeah, just briefly about Longroad. So Longroad's developer, owner, operator, wind, solar, and storage in the U.S. only, so U.S.-based company. We were formed in 2016, kind of out of a team of folks who formed First Wind. So about 7 years old at this point. We've grown, I would say, in a kind of measured growth over that time period. We're operating and managing just over 4 gigawatts of wind and solar today. And our first big storage projects are in construction and coming online next year. So just to give a little bit of kind of how that ties in with NarrativeWave, which I think is just specific to this conversation, is we've just got a lot of different assets, and actually of that 4 gigawatts, about half is for third-party owners. So we operate and manage the assets that we own as well as for a number of other folks, and that's about 50-50 as we sit here today. And on a go-forward basis, we're developing and planning to hold about a gigawatt to a gigawatt and a half per year of solar plus storage and wind. So it's really helpful and I would say critical to our success is having a platform and partners like the NarrativeWave team that can really cut across all those different types of assets. We've done and still do operate everything from some smaller solar projects. We've kind of dabbled at times in the kind of DG space. And as I said, kind of all the way up to multi-hundred megawatt wind, solar, and storage. So this flexible platform that we can have our engineering team deploy has been, really just critical to our success. Maybe just one other thing, just kind of where we based. So Longroad, I've got 3 offices, Scarborough, Maine, Boston is kind of our main headquarters, and then San Francisco, and then I would say kind of scattered throughout the U.S. We have a lot of folks, and I'm sure folks can sympathize with this in terms of post-COVID. We're kind of scattered all over. A lot of folks were working remotely and close to our assets. We're in just about every major market across the U.S. I would say we kind of really big concentration in the Southwest, a lot in CAISO, ERCOT, the places you'd expect to see big renewable penetration.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
And that's
Definitely an
Longroad.
impressive portfolio, an impressive background, an impressive company. I'm really excited to dive in. And for those of you listening, we're definitely talking about wind, solar, and BESS in the term of what Longroad has used us for. But what I hope you guys hear and can pull out from this conversation is a lot of this is going to be applicable to all the verticals we cover. The processes that we've created with Longroad, the problems that they've seen, those are things that we see across the board with all of our customers, regardless of industry. So while we're focusing on Longroad's wind, solar, and BESS, really what we're talking about today, there are so many things that you can pull from that we hope will help your business as well and give you creative ideas. I really believe that as consumers of any product, sometimes the best way to find how to use it is to listen to how other people are using it. There's really great insights that we can pull from other people. I do it on a daily basis, even with my own team. So we're excited to jump in, and without further ado, let's actually get into the meat of it. So we're going to start. Let's jump into our time machine and jump back to Longroad's original problem pre-NarrativeWave. So Robert, can you tell us what led you originally to seek out a performance analytics partner?
Yeah, hi Shelly. Hey everybody on the call. Yeah, pretty simple. We're a small team, both on performance engineering, ops engineering side, and also like IT type side of things as well. So we were doing a pretty good job on analytics, running ad hoc and scheduled analytics in an AWS environment. And this is across our whole portfolio. This is down to like rooftop solar, commercial C&I solar, up to 300 megawatt new utility solar plants and wind plants. And it was working fairly well, but it was limited to engineering really, and it was difficult to scale and to get the data in the hands of our ops managers and asset managers where it could really be useful. So we quickly realized we're not going to go out and hire more IT guys, more performance engineers, more data scientists, front-end developers, right, to actually make the platform that we need to take the data, run the analytics, and actually make it useful. So it was at that point where, and then also be able to scale that. So it was at that point where, hey, we're doing a pretty good job. We could do a lot better. Let's go out and seek some experts, both on the data science side, but also on just the platform development side. And so that's how we came across NarrativeWave.
Awesome. That's a great story. I'm curious, a couple things. One, Jeremy had mentioned you guys have both self-op sites and you have O&M. Did having two different types of structures there play into your decision at all when it came time to looking for a partner?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, Jeremy mentioned, kind of wildly different projects, both from an ownership standpoint, operation maintenance standpoint, contractual standpoint. And so what we end up with is really a lot of edge cases. No project is exactly the same. We kind of have snowflake needs for a lot of our projects. So it definitely it comes into play and really maybe jumping ahead in the presentation here, but kind of really highlights why NarrativeWave works for us. Is super flexible platform that allows us to manage each project individually, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into that more definitely, because I definitely want to hear about how NarrativeWave has helped with those specific scenarios with the O&M and the self-ops. But last question on this, we hear a lot that people really want to try to bring analytics in-house. Is that something that you had tried to do before deciding you needed a partner?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And the analytics, at least kind of at a basic level, That our team has the expertise in the knowledge of the technology to make it work. What's missing is the super high level data science, which is difficult, frankly difficult to hire for and scale with. And then also the other super critical piece too is, okay, now you have a great analytic, right? How do you make it actionable? How do you get that data in the hands of the right people? How do you track these anomalies without getting overwhelmed? And that's a key piece where, without hiring a full team of, what you guys have as NarrativeWave, a whole full stack developers and data scientists, right? That part is really hard for a company of our size to do.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that context. It's like I said, it's a theme that continues to come up, and we definitely appreciate your feedback and your insights into that scenario. So we understand a little bit about what your problems were, wanting to go to an analytics partner. Why did you ultimately choose NarrativeWave?
Yeah, it really comes down to two things. It's the ability to handle those edge cases and really treat every project as kind of unique. And then the second piece of that is, we didn't want a platform that would replace our operations engineers and performance engineers. We wanted a platform and experts in data science that would leverage our own expertise, right? A lot of these platforms, kind of put the data science first, but forget about the platform expertise. An example is did some old pilots back in the day with some data science folks, and it just brilliant data scientists, but took a lot to explain that, the reason why this status code is a predictor of a gearbox failure is because this is the code that comes up when the turbine's offline after the gearbox fails. So just stuff like that. So we really we wanted to put kind of the operational expertise, keep our performance engineers, our ops engineers as experts, but then build on their expertise by leveraging a platform like NarrativeWave versus, it's a little bit of nuance, but versus putting the data science first. And then also the other piece of this is really kind of making the data analysis actionable, and it's as simple as being able to track all the events, calculate lost energy, prioritize, visualize, and there's no one great way to do that. And NarrativeWave provides us that flexibility to find that optimum way that works for us or works best for each of our project and each of the people that are actually using the data.
Yeah, that's really good insight, and I love it because we really take our role seriously in terms of being a force multiplier and not, we want to be part of your team. We want to collaborate together. We want to take your expertise and we want to help you scale that. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't take the place of your team. It actually makes your team more robust because we become an integrated part of that team and we take that role seriously. And I like that you mentioned that it becomes that NarrativeWave really focuses on the actionable outcome because we value that we are an end-to-end solution. Our goal is not to just present you with problems and say, okay, figure it out. Our goal is to take you from the beginning of, hey, recognize that there's an issue and how do we get all the way to issue resolution, which really lends to ROI and seeing that those actionable outcomes translate to energy creation and more money at the end of the day. So thank you so much for those.
Yeah, Shelly, if I could just jump off that for a second in terms of the choice, because we thought long and hard about this. We looked at a lot of different solutions. And I will say the thing that jumps out for me was, and you said part of it, kind of end to end, and I kind of see it as end to end partner, right? Not just end to end solution, because we've definitely worked with lots of folks who kind of where you get to is, hey, here are all these megawatt hours that you guys are losing, and like that's the end. That's it, right? You're losing a bunch of megawatt hours. Whereas what we found with NarrativeWave as we've worked together is you actually own with us all the way to actually saving those megawatt hours, right? And take it all the way to action. And if that action, even if it's something as mundane of the issue is not the fact that there's something happening wrong with this particular turbine or this particular BESS system, the issue is that now that you know that that's happening, how are you communicating it and tracking it through correction with the counterparty who can actually fix the problem? And I feel like although that sounds mundane, there's a large gap, at least what we've seen with working with other partners, from the time of what's going on, but actually getting it in a repeatable way fixed actually becomes a big part of the problem. And otherwise you just have a long list of stuff that nobody takes action on. So we really appreciate that the NarrativeWave rolled up their sleeves, worked with us, said, what's the obstacle? We've seen this, now why haven't we fixed it? And just kind of continuing to work your way down to now it's fixed. Like that's the secret sauce.
I love that. I'm going to coin it. We're going to quote it. We're going to put you on the website, Jeremy. It's really good feedback. And we love to hear it because we, like I said, we really do take our partnership seriously. With all of that, has anything surprised you? So you had all these reasons to come to NarrativeWave, but then once we actually did roll up our sleeves together, we've been working together for a long time. Has anything surprised you?
Yeah, I can take this one, Jeremy. Yeah, it really the kind of the collaboration and being able to virtually sit in the same room with George and Diego, who know the back end, know the analytics. We don't have to go through a trouble ticket if something arises. We have a weekly call with both George and Diego. They know the product in and out. They know the analytics in and out. We can often solve issues on a real time. We don't have to go through the trouble ticket loop, work with a customer service manager, front level trouble ticket, engineer that has to go to the experts on the back end. It just makes the process, what's not an easy process. It makes it so much quick and direct to the point. And then beyond that too, just the overall flexibility of the platform. We going into it, we knew it was flexible, but basically myself and some key members of my team have direct access to certain parts of the back end infrastructure. We can peel back the curtain on a lot of the code, see exactly what the analytics doing. We can modify, improve it as we see fit, or bring our own code. And then even being able to just directly change, some of the back end metadata. A little somewhat trivial example, but we're running analytics and turbines. As I'm sure everybody on the call knows, derate all the time for, whether you off-taker curtailment or temperature curtailment or whatever, right? So trying to figure out when it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing versus what it's not is difficult. But we can go in if we see a code erroneously, marked as a normal operation when it's actually a normal derate. We can go in and rather than putting in a trouble ticket, we can just go into the back end and say, add this code to a list and say, and then that changes the analytic from now it's not a curtailment, now it's a normal operation derate. So just makes it so much quicker for us having, some of those keys to the platform.
It's great insight, Robert.
Yeah, and if I'll just piggyback on the one thing that has surprised me has just been the level of ownership that we've experienced with NarrativeWave, and I think ownership gets thrown around a lot when folks are talking about trying to solve particular problems. But I would just say that it's a true feeling of you owning the solution, right? You don't stop at identifying the problem. And that has impressed me throughout, because sometimes the solution is that, hey, our internal process is just a little bit hard to navigate, and how do we get the right person? Or maybe the problem is a turbine OEM or a inverter OEM. And I think the fact that you own with us to solve whatever that, or remove whatever that obstacle is, has just turned into a really powerful force multiplier for us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's a really
Jeremy.
good point. Yeah, it's a good point, and something we really value. We want you to be successful. We don't want to just throw analytics at you. We want those to be successful. And definitely in our partnership with you guys, we have spent a lot of time making sure the solution you have is the solution you need, the exact solution you need. And that really comes down to the flexibility of the product and the people. And what really comes to mind is, come for the analytics, stay for the partnership. We're a solid platform, we're solid people, and it's really been a great partnership with you guys to take that from, hey, here's our problem, and we've refined it down to a very flexible, well-defined system that works for Longroad. I
Yep.
love that. All right, so let's jump into the partnership itself. So we have worked together for a really long time, and I know this is a broad question, but how have you worked with us to solve the problems that you've had?
Yeah, again, great collaboration. Basically, from the start, I think we've been meeting almost weekly, probably since the start, and went into it with clearly jointly developing list of actionable items. So like onboarding dates for projects when we want to get. We had a full-on matrix set up for dates, project, analytic, right? So in hitting those targets. So very, very deliberate collaboration there. And then also a lot of iteration on the on just the best way to get the data flow working. We had all our data already set up in an AWS environment. NarrativeWave's working in an AWS environment as well. And so again, that link set up. So just a lot of iteration on that. And then a lot of iteration on the asset hierarchy. Sure, most folks on the call know that like a lot of these solar projects, the asset hierarchy, yeah, it can be quite complex, and matching up trackers to inverters and combiners, recombiners, that type of stuff is not always straightforward. And so really iterating with Diego and George on how that should be set up, ownership structure, getting all the data in there. So yeah, bottom line, just kind of deliberate collaboration is maybe if I boiled it down to 2 words.
I'm curious, going through this process with you, and you mentioned that early stage sort of project planning that we had with the timeframes, and making sure that there's no surprises on both ends and we're both hitting the milestones. That changed pretty significantly from the beginning of our relationship and what you wanted the analytics to be to what we ended up with. Can you walk us through what that process was like and what that meant to you to be able to change those analytics from the beginning ideas?
Yeah, it was iterative, and yeah, just being able to do that is also key. So not having, it's not like, so there's kind of preset analytics that are already built and available, and some of those were implemented, but then there's also some it comes back to the flexibility again, like, oh, we want to look at the power curve like this and overlay all the status events on the power curve, so we know when what the turbine's actually thinking it's doing when it's underperforming. So having the ability to kind of not really change course, but fine tune the course and not just be handed a list of this is what the platform does, make it work. It's more, this is what the platform currently does. How can we kind of tweak it a little bit to make it fit your needs better?
Yeah, definitely fine tune the course. I like that, and it's been a neat process to see. You guys came to us with a very specific problem, and as we have dug into those problems, we've uncovered better ways and more efficient ways to tackle the analytics so that it makes more sense for you. That's been a lot of fun. All right, thanks so much for your feedback on that. How does your team currently use NarrativeWave?
Yeah, so the way we're set up here, probably similar to a lot of companies, are kind of three-legged stool maybe for all our projects. We have operations representative on every project, asset management on every project, and engineering on every project. And so NarrativeWave is really the engineering baby, at least at this point. So the last thing we want to do as performance engineers and operations engineers is make extra work for the guys in the site. So we basically curate the entire system, make sure the analytics are sound, the data is good before we send anything over to operations to climb a tower or whatnot. So it's basically engineering's first line of defense. You go through work to develop the analytics, work to quality control them, and then we'll given that, again, our varied project platform, each project is a little bit different, but engineering first line of defense on some of our self-performed projects, we submit work orders directly to the operations team. The operations team would go out, check out the issue, fix the issue, either input it fix right into NarrativeWave, or give it back the info back to the engineer to put into NarrativeWave to close out that event. Some of the bigger, full wrap OEM projects are a little bit different, where it's more email and kind of monthly type calls with the service provider. And again, kind of having that flexibility with the platform to kind of treat each project a little bit different, given the contract structure, is key for us.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. We actually have a question about if you have O&M contracts, how is there still value? And that really highlights that value of being able to hold your O&Ms accountable, being able to pull the reports from NarrativeWave and hold them accountable, not only throughout the month, but when you do have those monthly check-ins, like you mentioned. So that's a great question. Hopefully that answered the question that I saw pop up. Now, in terms of the actual...
Shelley, if I can...
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, and Shelley, if I can just jump on, and then I know that you can stay on the next tab, that's fine. But just in terms of, right, each kind of function within the company, kind of how they need to use it is a little bit different, right? And I think one of the things, so just for those on the webinar that maybe are on the asset management side or business side or just kind of management side of the assets, how could you use it? The way we've decided to use it, and this is in collaboration to make those, really kind of create those metrics, create those dashboards. I think the thing that has been helpful for me has been, almost a little bit of a 10,000 foot view to be able to look at the whole portfolio and see where are things held up, right? Because each one is a different solution. So in other words, so just as an example, we might look at a particular, we'll go back to the OEM example, and why would you do that? Well, what we've seen, and I think we knew this intuitively, when you look at a particular wind project and you see how many events or megawatt hours, potential lost megawatt hours are you seeing for this particular project, right? You can see that very clearly. It's for these types of events. All right, well, where's the lag time, like, in fixing those? Okay, is it in our control, the things of our engineers seeing it? Nope, that, you can see that those are all kind of flowing through and categorized fairly quickly. Okay, so then what? Well, then it's sitting in communicating it to, or is it because of while we're evaluating it? Nope, we're evaluating it quickly and we're getting it on. And then you look at it and you say, well, gosh, all of this is sitting in, we have communicated this to the OEM and it hasn't been fixed yet. Okay, well, that's really helpful, right? Because then when we're meeting with at any level of the organization with our partners, and this isn't to knock on OEMs, they have lots to do, right? And their main priority to the person's question of why is this valuable? Because most of these contracts and really most of their risk is on the reliability side, right? It's very much warranties, availability, those types of things. And so if that's going well, we're looking at, well, what about slight derates? What about slight performance issues that might add up to 2-3% on a project that they're not going to be looking at, right? They're not, or they're certainly not first on their list. So in terms of function, found that really valuable, and then being able to see, well, where's the obstacle so that we can put resources towards fixing it.
Yeah, that's a great points, and something that we see again across the board with O&M providers and needing to hold them accountable and having a process to do it. I know we're running low on time here, and we want to jump into the demo, but Robert, can you just briefly talk us through the process flow that you created with us?
It's not a platform or product without a workflow, so we came up with one. So it's super high level, as I mentioned. So all of our data from all of our projects resides in some form in an AWS environment. We pass that data over to NarrativeWave daily, basically 5 to 10 minute data and all the status events. And each most of the analytics we have set up run daily. A few temperature analytics will average data and kind of run at a less frequent event. And we do actually have some analytics just running monthly to aid our kind of performance review calls. So if something gets triggered in the analytic, my team, the engineering team, is first to review it. Again, we don't want to put any thing over the fence that we don't think is real. So we'll assign a priority to it. We basically have 8 different levels. It's like, super urgent down to revise analytic to kind of watch, type of thing. And then from there on our self-perform, some of our self-perform sites will automatically create a work order from NarrativeWave, pass that over to our ops managers. On some of the other projects, it's either an email or like on a full wrap wind project, maybe it's a monthly kind of review with the OEM. And then the key piece of this is we want to kind of close that loop. So get the data back from the field of what they actually found. And so again, that on the self-perform sites, that's retrieving data directly from the work order system. Other sites, it's at least at this point, manual entry. So we record that feedback and then close out the event and go from there.
Awesome. Great process, and that'll really help set the stage for the demo. And I am going to hand it over to George to take it away.
Thanks, Shelley. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. Can you see NarrativeWave?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, so we got 20 minutes here. I'm going to have to go fairly fast through this first section, but basically what we wanted to do is to show you a few examples of issues identified in the NarrativeWave platform, but also kind of how those issues would track to resolution and how Longroad kind of respond to them. And I'll let Robert do most of the talking from the Longroad side, but I just need to kind of briefly explain some of the core concepts of NarrativeWave, just so everyone kind of knows what they're looking at. So I'm going to go through that fairly quickly. This is what we call the event listing page, right? So NarrativeWave is a system that's largely based around detecting and communicating interesting events. That's what we're looking at here. On the left-hand side, you can see some filters and everything you would expect here. You can basically define what you're interested in looking at. Here I've selected some assets that we're going to demo later, but if you're a site manager, you might choose your site, or if you have been assigned some events, you might choose your name there and you'll see all of the events assigned to you. That kind of thing, fairly obvious. And in the events themselves here, you've got the kind of high level info, the event name, the asset, the start and stop. You've also got the ability to kind of assign priorities and add comments and assign users here as well. So that's all just basically listing the things that we've detected. So I'll go into one of these events now. Which one I'm going to go into? This second one here. So I've just clicked into one of those events. That takes me to basically the details of that event. And the general concept here is to give the user all the information they need to kind of first understand why this event has been created. That's something that people often forget, weirdly, but also then to be able to perform some kind of next step and get that issue resolved. And that might be assigning it to a technician, creating a work order, notifying an OEM, that kind of thing. But in this case, what we're detecting here is that an inverter's normalized power, and normalized by the kind of sum of the capacities of the panels that it's connected to, the normalized power is less than the normalized power of its neighbors. So in layman's terms, it's underperforming relative to the neighboring inverters there. And here we're saying it's actually also underperforming relative to itself in the past 365 days. So we kind of explain that at the top of the event, but in all of our events, we've got kind of contextual plots to prove to the user this is an event kind of worth raising. And here we can see the black line is the average performance of that inverter over the last year. And down here, we've got data points that are sufficiently far away from that line for us to determine that that's a kind of underperformance. And we scroll down again and we can see this blue line here is the normalized power, or the median of the normalized power of the neighbors. And the yellow line is the inverter that we're interested in. You can clearly see that there's a period in time here where it's performing less than it should do. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this in a minute and ask Robert to explain what the next steps would be. I'm very quickly going to just show you some of the ways that we can set up these analyses. We've kind of alluded to the fact that NarrativeWave is flexible and can be molded to fit kind of exactly Longroad's requirements. So I'm just going to touch on that, and we haven't got enough time to kind of dive into all the details here. So please just reach out if you want to kind of deep dive on what all this is. But so, for example, this is what we call our insight tree. This is kind of no code user interface. It allows a user to build their own analyses without having to write any code. And that's kind of particularly good for engineers who don't necessarily write code every day. Some do, and actually in Robert's team, many do. So each of these blocks represents some kind of Python code. You can look at that Python code. You can go all the way to the Python code and basically have access to this list of preset pieces of code. Each of these codes, each of these scripts is basically one of those blocks that you saw on the previous screen. So we kind of believe fairly fundamentally that the underlying logic of those checks should be completely accessible to the user in such a way that they can even copy it and edit it and create another one and scan through all of the previous pieces of code that have ever been used. Okay, so I hope that's super quick. I hope that's kind of told a story about how we're able to kind of flex NarrativeWave such that it solves Longroad specific problems. I'm going to go back to that original event we were looking at now. And if you remember, this is an inverter that's underperforming relative to its own history and relative to its neighbors. Robert, I don't know, could you talk us through how you would respond to an event like this and maybe touch on what actually happened in this particular instance?
Yep, sure. So this case, this is it's a fairly small 10 megawatt solar project that's like 12 years old down in New Mexico. It's got 180 string level 55 kilowatt inverters on it. So it's on this project, it's often hard to see the forest through the trees. So in this particular case, the AC contactor is a contact that closes in the main power contact when a irradiance or voltage is high enough. If that irradiance is low, or there's degradation on the panels, which there is, or there's DC string issues, which there is to 12-year-old site, that contactor will sit there and chatter kind of intermittently. So it's across the 180 inverters, if there's 2 or 3, it's fairly easy to see. It's hard to kind of manage, right? Because we have a lot of data coming in, comm issues and whatnot. So this is really kind of where NarrativeWave helps us out by logging each one as its own individual event. Our engineers can go in and see, did this happen? We have some other dashboards set up with heat maps over time series. You can see, is this happening every day? Is it only happening once, right? If it's only happening once, it's probably not worth a truck roll to send somebody out. So kind of aggregating all the data here, and you can see the different views that are available to us. Our engineer can then go and say, yeah, this is real. Work with the O&M manager, say, this is happening. We think it's costing us this much lost energy. Why don't we go ahead and go out and fix it? And then the other part of this, George is showing it here, is trying to categorize exactly what's causing a lot of these issues. So in this case, we logged it as a aux contactor open, so we can then ultimately work to say, with our procurement team and others, say, hey, we need a new supply of these, or we need to redesign that type of thing.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
Sorry, George. I got 2 quick questions. One, are you leveraging NarrativeWave to kind of keep, how do I say this delicately, your OEM and O&M partners honest in some of these respects? Is it helping that capacity today?
Yeah, definitely. Not necessarily on our self-perform sites, it's like directly actionable, right? But for a full wrap, either solar or wind project, it is almost as much as, just having that knowledge base to really know what's going on with the project, to make sure that the OEM, even if it's a full wrap, make sure that they're providing their obligations under the contract and doing their best to operate the project as best as they can, right? So it's partly holding them accountable, but it's also collaborative, believe it or not, with the OEMs. It's very akin to shadow monitoring on CMS drivetrain vibration, right? Or doing blade inspections along with the OEM. The more knowledge we have about the projects, even if it's a full wrap, the better off we're going to be, is our philosophy, basically.
No, that's very helpful. And that kind of permeates into my second question. There's a lot of traditional monitoring companies that do what we do, and then our focus is obviously more on the advanced analytics. How do you see those coexisting in your world? Just out of curiosity.
You mean how does NarrativeWave compare, or how?
Yes. Compare or complement?
Yeah, so NarrativeWave, it's a quote unquote add-on or complement to our day-to-day monitoring platform. So it's it really enhances the capability of that day-to-day monitoring. So we still have a rock team, O&M team, right, that are doing day-to-day, turbines offline, let's go out, fix it right away.
Right.
We track some of that in NarrativeWave, but this is more of maybe a step back look and trying to catch those things that the rock's not catching, or the OEM's not catching, or OEMs aren't catching day to day. So it's it's an enhancement, really an add-on to the day-to-day platforms.
Got it. Thanks, Robert. Sorry, George, I didn't want to interrupt you. I think you had a question to ask.
That's okay. No, it brings me to I just wanted to kind of point out what this labeling feature is all about, and what someone has, for this particular event, has selected auxiliary contactor open as the root cause. right? These percentages basically refer to, in the last 100 times this particular event has happened, what have been the root causes? And turns out 46.7% of the time it's this one. So that, if you have that kind of information for each of your fault types or event types, that starts to be extremely valuable in terms of, what are you going to go out there and trying to solve, not just for one issue or asset, but kind of across multiple assets. Let me just jump to another one. We are a little short on time, so I'm going to go to this tracker event. So this is around basically comparing the actual tracker position with the calculated, I guess, optimal position of that tracker based on its location and the time of day. If I scroll down, you can see that there's error on tracker 54. This is saying that the delta between the actual and the optimal is, sufficiently far away from zero that we're going to create an event and tell Longroad about it. And if I scroll down a little bit more, you can see the actual details here. This is tracker 54 in blue and tracker its neighbors 53 and 55 in brown and yellow. You can see that there's clearly an issue there. Robert, can you talk a little bit about first, like, that optimal angle, why that's useful, and then what you did about this particular issue?
Yeah, you bet. So this is kind of just a neat feature where you can bring in. This is actually, I think we're leveraging NarrativeWave is leveraging open source, Python library. What's the optimal angle for a 2-axis tracker at this lat and longitude, right? And just being able to overlay that. Maybe not. This particular project is a large new utility solar site. Maybe not quite as useful on this project, but on these smaller old solar sites, we just often see GPS clocks start drifting. Technicians will be doing maintenance or have to reprogram a PLC and just can fat finger the ground coverage ratio or something. So now your backtrack's off. So just being able to overlay that and get that optimum angle for every project that we own, so we know exactly what the trackers are doing. And then this particular event in particular kind of highlights, Ben, I think what you were asking about. That this is a third-party OEM, and like if a tracker is off or gets stuck, like for half a day, right? But our expectation is the OEM actually knows about it too. But this allows us to make sure that they actually do. And then if it's, if this has been stuck for 3 days or something where we don't think it's, responsive enough per the contractor, just in general, we're able to talk with the OEM and say, hey, this thing's been down for 3 days. Let's get it scheduled to fix, that type of thing.
Cool. Yeah, and you can see here that some of these workflows that workflow statuses and priorities that Longroad have defined. One of them is inform OEM. You can see that the status of this event was changed to that, and then a few days later, this came in as some feedback. Okay, I'm going to skip to wind. I know we've got 5 minutes here, so this will probably be the last one. So this is, and you scroll to the top, high gearbox oil temperatures. Super simple, more around reliability than performance, I guess. On the bottom here, we're showing the real-time gearbox oil temperature of a certain turbine, and below that is basically the rest of the site, the mean and average, and some mean plus or minus some threshold in gray, and then like slightly transparent in the background are all the other turbines, so you get an idea of what else is happening on site. And up here is the mean. It's the weekly binned averages of gearbox oil temperature at rated power. So it's, how hot is your gearbox oil when the turbine is spinning as fast as it can. Yeah, could you talk about this one in terms of these actions, Robert? I know this is something that you guys are trying to implement recently.
Yeah, so this is a feature where we're trying to get up the curve on. So we're given the kind of varied level project. We don't have a uniform work order system across all our projects. So what we're trying to do here is really give the technicians in the field direction on where to go when we're seeing these analytics, right? Because anybody who's been in wind, I'm sure understands that, often these performance level, this one's temperature, so it's a little bit easier, but some of these performance level events, it's like, okay, we see it, what do we do? But in this case, we're able to upload the loop schematic for this gearbox, put in some recommendations that we can iterate on with our ops team of, okay, we get this event in, this was the root cause, this is what we should do. Next time our OM has a brand new guy, he can quickly go to this and say, okay, we've seen this before, right? Let's go through these steps and figure it out.
Cool. Okay, great. We did have one more event, but I think I'm going to just go. What I really want to talk a little bit about the dashboards. Shelley, stop me here if we should just wrap this up, or.
Yeah, I think the key is if you want to put the dashboard up, we've worked really hard with Longroad to define dashboards around their internal processes in ways that make these dashboards meaningful for both Robert, for the site team, and for Jeremy and executives. It's really important to see really from top down. Everyone in the chain has the ability to have KPIs and dashboards that are meaningful for them, and that's really what we've defined with Longroad.
Well, just talk to talk about why that's valuable. Why is that valuable to these different constituents, right? They can go in. Well, just explain that piece of it very quickly, or maybe have Longroad do it.
Jeremy. Yeah, Jeremy, that might be a good one for you.
Yeah, I can briefly. So I know we only have a couple minutes. I mean, the value there is none of this is valuable if we don't actually fix something, right? And I always kind of hammer that point of like, knowing that there's an issue is in the merely interesting category if we never fix it. So having these kind of fleet level dashboards doesn't help. It doesn't directly help us fix it. Actually, what it helps us do is understand why are we not fixing it? Because it's nearly never are we not fixing it because, our highly valuable technicians in the field don't want to fix the problem, right? Like that's not why we're not fixing it. So this allows us really kind of at the portfolio level or at the business level to say, well, what's the obstacle? The obstacle is maybe our contracts don't incentivize our OEMs enough. The obstacle might be that our operations engineers are overwhelmed and they can't even keep up with the volume. Maybe we're getting too many false positives. So I feel like it's really to make sure Robert's team has the resources and the ops team has the resources they need to fix the problems, because the problem is never that they don't want to fix it. So this lets us know, all right, well then what's the obstacle? Or flip that on its head, look how successful it is, right? You see, hey, 100% has been categorized, and look how quickly oh, great, that one's working. And in a lot of cases, the story is more on the positive side, right? Hey, we're fixing this stuff quickly. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I would say there's the other completely opposite side of the spectrum where you can go all the way to, a site manager maybe only cares about his site, right? So they can go all the way to their particular project and look at stuff that's interesting for them, including kind of, what basically a site version of what we saw a minute ago, or some kind of, Robert earlier mentioned the heat maps, what's happening on the site across the turbines, or, some performance, power curve style checks. You can change dates and those kinds of things. So who we're trying to cater for there is basically everyone at different levels of the asset hierarchy and the kind of business hierarchy too.
Yeah, because all of them matter and they all have different things that they want to focus on. So they're all just as critical. All right, if I'll just steal the screen real quick, I'm going to flash up my email address. Longroad has been kind enough to offer that if you have additional questions on use case, on value, you're welcome to reach out to them. Let me flash my email here. If you would like a one-on-one, a demo, if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my email address, shelly.buckland@narrativewave.com. The recording should pop up soon, so you can come back and watch it. And otherwise, we are just so thankful for you guys, Longroad, for being willing to have this conversation with us. It's really an amazing story. You guys are an amazing team. It's been a great partnership, and we thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you, NarrativeWave. This has been great. Really appreciate the time.
Great. Thanks,
Great.
folks.
Thanks so much,
Appreciate it.
everybody.
everyone.
Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you. Take care. Cheers.
Bye bye.